Recorded from the Oklahoma State University Stillwater campus, this is the Inside OSU Podcast. Here are your hosts, Meghan Robinson and First Cowboy Darren Shrum.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inside OSU Podcast. Along First Cowboy Darren Shrum, I am Meghan Robinson, and we are so excited to have a former OSU homecoming queen with us this week for homecoming, Brooke Taylor.
Hi.
How's it feel to be back in Stillwater?
Oh, it's so good. I love being in Stillwater anytime, but especially homecoming. There's so much orange and everyone is happy. I love it.
What made you want to be a homecoming queen back in your day?
Oh my goodness. I don't know that I wanted to be homecoming queen, but the truth is my freshman roommate at the time came home with the application and said, I think you should do this. And it sat on the counter for probably 3 days. And she was like, no, I'm serious, Brooke. Like, you'll win if you apply for this. And so I did. And for me, I wasn't in a house on campus. I took a non-traditional, non-Greek life. I'm from Payne County, and in my mind, I thought no one picks a local to win anything on campus, right? It's going to be harder for a local to do anything on campus because you're judged, I think, maybe a little bit more harshly because you grew up here. And I didn't think it was possible to win, if we're being honest. And it was probably the coolest week and day of my life because it was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, I could do this. I could do anything.
That's awesome. That's the thing that makes college and high school different, right? Because it's kind of like when you go to college, you can almost be anything you want to be, right? So it's your time to change or be the same or whatever you'd like to do.
Right.
I know homecoming is awesome. So we've had, several kids graduate here, and homecoming is such a fantastic time because of all the pomping and everything that they do. And it's crazy. And last year, Casey and I rode around in a golf cart for about 4 or 5 hours and handed out cookies and cupcakes and visited every site on campus, and it was a ton of fun and crazy too. Is Casey and I get to be the grand marshals this year of the parade. So first time. We were in it last year, but we were like 5 or 6 cars back, so that was fun too. But anyway, so it's great, and congratulations that you were OSU homecoming.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
So my favorite story about that day is at that time it was halftime is when you found out who won.
So not fountain dyeing like it is
No,
now.
that did not exist yet. So halftime, and usually then everyone left the stadium kind of at halftime to go back out to their tailgates. No one did. And I was the only person who was, I believe, the only person who was not Greek. And so as they announced each candidate, their houses would cheer for them. And I remember standing on the field thinking, well, this isn't going to go well.
Hope somebody cheers, right?
Yeah. And when they called my name, the entire College of Ag cheered.
Great.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like they know my name? This is amazing. And that was a really good feeling to know that even though I didn't think anyone had my back, it was like a whole section of the stadium. It was wild.
That's the greatest thing about OSU is it's a family, truly, and I think everybody here is accepted, and they have their different support groups, which is awesome. So do you ever try the crown on?
Do you still have the crown?
Does it still fit? That's right.
My daughter, she had the sash. She
Right.
knows where that is, and she can get to it really quickly. And then I still have the orange shoes.
Awesome.
And she will wear them around the house on occasion.
And I think right in front of you
Are
is
they?
actually that's the picture of you
yes,
as
yes.
queen.
Oh, how cool is that?
Oh, yes,
Orange
right there.
heels, look at them.
Orange
yeah,
heels.
that's awesome.
I obviously have these shoes from my senior year. And then I saw your wife in a photo with her orange shoes.
Which pair? She has so many.
She
several.
does. Well, I saw a very specific pair.
Right.
And my friends actually went in together and bought me these shoes. I was recognized on campus earlier this year as a Young Achievement Award winner for my department. And they sent me those shoes as a congratulations. So I should thank your wife for those fancy shoes in my closet.
She's diehard orange. So people
Yes.
showed up at our house today, to do a quick tour. And so everybody wants to see her closet because it's just orange and black. And heels are Nike tennis shoes, right? And so it's kind of cool to see. So so you went to school here. So what did you study when you were here?
Sure. So my undergrad is agricultural communications.
Okay.
With a minor in ag econ, and then I stuck around for my master's in international agriculture, focusing on mass communications.
Did you do in ag ed, right? They have the area where you can actually a company can pay money, right? And a group of 4 work on maybe helping them rebrand or remarket their business. And did you have to do that back then? I got to judge those, right? I've been 2 semesters and I think it's awesome.
So campaigns class,
okay.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Okay.
But then I also interned on campus. I don't know if it's still here. It was the new product development center. So I had an entire internship that was doing exactly that for multiple semesters.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So,
My kids
yeah.
all grew up in ag, and so I got to sit through and judge
Yeah.
that. And I always look forward to that end of every semester they do that. So they have
Mm-hmm.
the projects and they present them and how they should be marketed. So,
Which
but
for me,
awesome.
that transitioned into what I do for a living, which is just marketing for
Right,
food
right.
and ag companies.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
But you also have a foundation and your own company, Rural Gone Urban.
Yes.
So is that your full-time job or is that on top of your marketing job?
Sure. So I worked for advertising agencies across the country, working for national, international clients, and I wanted to move home to Oklahoma and rural Oklahoma specifically, where there's not great internet. And so I launched my own business under the Rural Gone Urban brand, which that name actually came from a blog. My former roommate right after college and I moved to Oklahoma City, and we started a blog called Rural Gone Urban. I just transitioned that name into my business name, so full circle. And that's my marketing full-time business. So I work with national, international food and ag companies under that brand. And then earlier this year launched the foundation, which is independent. It's a public foundation. It just carries the same name.
What do you do with your foundation?
Sure. So this is going to be a little murky. I know we haven't got to this part yet, but the foundation truly is a reflection of the three most important seasons of my life, the hardest and most enjoyable. And the first pillar of this foundation is supporting B students as they focus on what their post-secondary education is going to look like. And so for me, I wasn't a straight A student, but I did wear the orange gown at college graduation, and I was the homecoming queen. And if it was not for scholarships and grants, and I would not even have been able to step foot on campus. And so B students need scholarships too.
I agree. I like
love
that
that.
because
Yeah.
I was almost a beast.
Right? B and C gets
So,
the degrees, right?
That's
Exactly.
exactly right. That's exactly right. So
So
So the number of times people have asked my GPA post graduation is 0. And I get that it matters in some things, but I'm like, you can still be successful without, burning yourself out by studying for 17 hours a day and needing to get straight A's. So I love that you're really encouraging the B or sometimes C students to pursue college because it is for them.
right. And
I had real quick, it was a good friend of mine. He's a dentist today, right? And he graduated number 82 in his dental class. And he
Out
was,
of 83.
Yeah, no, out of 82, right? And I was like, Paul, that's awesome. And so I won't tell his last name, and he goes, you know what you call it, the kid that graduated 82nd? A dentist. And I was like, that's exactly right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, right? So
right.
it's
And
good.
even in school for me here on campus, I worked so many jobs, even
Sure.
having leadership, positions, that sometimes I wasn't turning in the best work.
Sure.
Because at the time, just, making rent was really important, as eating was really
same-
important.
Well, you're able to balance things, right? And
Yeah.
so that really tells me more. I used to hire a lot of people when I worked for a pharma company, right? And so I was more interested in when they went to school, if they just went to school, or were they
Right.
involved? What organizations were you involved? Did you do any special things outside of school? Because life is multitasking constantly, right? And so,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
So I want to get those B and C students, I want to give them the opportunity. I mean, I love A students too, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of options out there for them. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is business grants for small rural business owners. When I moved from Nashville back home to Oklahoma, I actually moved into the apartment in my dad's horse barn because I needed to launch a business. I didn't have a lot of inflow to make that happen, and so I was
you needed low overhead. Right?
I did. In a barn,
Right,
truly.
right.
And so thinking back, if someone were to give me a no questions asked grant, that would have catapulted me
Right.
so far. And knowing how far I've come with my business now, if I would have had just a little bit of help then. And so I want to pay it forward to those business owners because truly, if you can live where you want to live, where you get to see the ruralness of Oklahoma or whatever state it may be, you're going to be happy and enjoy your job.
Sure.
And then the third pillar is supporting who I believe are the bravest people of all, and those are the people who are facing a cancer diagnosis. As a 2-time cancer survivor, and I can say that the second part very recently, I know that there's a huge gap between what insurance pays for and the lowered income that you have because you have to take some time off to fight cancer. And in that gap, you have this area where you want to make memories with your family. and you want to print all the photos, all the thousands of photos on your phone, because I mean, your phones aren't going to last forever. And making memories, just, those things cost money and no one's supporting. So helping those women do those things. So for me, I'm probably going to jump around a little bit on this, but in March of this year, after 2 years of living with no evidence of disease of cancer, my cancer came back out of the blue. It shouldn't have happened statistically. And here I was with a 2.5-year-old who was not going to remember me. Mm-hmm. She was going to have videos and photos. And goodness.
It's crazy.
It was terrible. And all I could think about was, what can I do to leave a legacy for her? And that truly is where the Rule Gunner Bin Foundation came from, is I'm not here. Maybe she can know me through how I choose to love others without an asterisk, and the 3 most important pieces of my life that other people can carry out in my honor if I'm not here. Luckily, I just had a clear scan, so I am gifted more time. That could be 70 years, it could be 6 months, but I have more time.
Awesome.
And
so can you kind of talk about the very
Sure.
first time you were diagnosed and
Yeah.
kind of what your situation was? Were you married and how old
Sure.
you were, if that's okay?
Absolutely. So I was diagnosed in 2019.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
I was newly married to my high school best friend. We are not high school sweethearts, but kind of a rekindled Hallmark thing when we turned in our 30s.
Friends make the best marriage,
Right.
That's right.
And we had a amazing snowstorm wedding in Big Sky, Montana. Just really
awesome.
Hallmarkness, right?
Right,
The good
right.
stuff. And I was managing my job. I was traveling all over the state, working on some really fun clients, producing TV series. And I was pregnant and I was living my best life. And I was like, this is it. This is what I'm living in the good old days. And while I was pregnant, I noticed some changes that take place, but I'd never been pregnant before. So
yeah.
How would you know?
how would I know? And I trusted our doctors, and they said, oh, this is just part of getting ready to have a baby. But then my mama bear instincts kind of popped up on my 38-week appointment. I literally took my shirt off in the appointment and was like, I'm not leaving here until you feel this. And within 24 hours, I met with a breast health specialist. I actually waddled into his office, honestly. And he took some biopsies, and he said, don't worry about it. Have a relaxing weekend. Poker face. My gosh. He's one of my favorite people now, but man,
I don't know
that
how they
poker
can
face.
expect people to do that when you hear that word, It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
So he called me on Monday morning at 8 a.m. and he said, hey, kiddo, it's cancer. And I am very large pregnant.
Like
very,
you're due almost any
38
day.
Oh,
weeks,
I've
yeah.
fully cooked this child.
Yes.
She
Right.
is
Yes.
ready. And within 15 minutes, my other doctor called and said, hey, you want to have a baby today? I was like, yeah, I guess. And so just a few hours later, at 2:00 that day, I met my child, who we had decided not to know the gender. And so we thought that would be the biggest surprise of her
Right.
day of birth, and in fact was not.
Right.
But I was diagnosed in a pretty early stage 2B, which is pretty early. I went through the entire breast cancer buffet of all of the chemo. I had a few surprise surgeries for staph infections. At the time, I had a client, Oklahoma Beef Council, and we were doing some video series with Steven Adams. And so I was producing from the chemo chair, working on video prep, which is a really wild season of my life. They would say, hey, the Benadryl is about to hit, so you're going to have to get off that phone and call. It's what we do, right?
Get a
We
little sleepy, right?
You get a
Yeah.
little sleepy, manage. Anyway, I went through all of the things, and I had a double mastectomy. And at that time, they said there was no evidence. You beat it. You did it. I did proactive radiation just to be sure. And then I also, because I had learned during the process, I was a BRCA1 carrier. I had a preventative hysterectomy and oophorectomy just to be safe. Mm-hmm. So my child was less than 1, and I was handing over my reproductive organs to, the cancer volcano is a kind of a please leave me alone sacrifice. And then I had 2 really good anxiety-ridden years of just being a mom and a business owner and doing great things. And then it came back. Just came back.
That's crazy. I think that sounds to me like you just stayed extremely busy during all the treatment, and that probably had to help you and really help you just not to. I mean, you have to think about it every day. You know, I think about just being older, right? Yeah. And think about the things that can potentially happen, but something was actually happening to you. And so I'm guessing that helped you, you know, keep your mind kind of off that a little bit.
It did. And I think that's just who I am, and all the people around me are just as people. It's just do the next right thing. I love owning business. I love my clients. And what I think hurt me the most during that season was that I wouldn't get to work with them. I was like, oh, watch me. It'll be fine.
Very unselfish. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And October is breast cancer awareness month. Hence the reason I'm wearing hot pink during homecoming week. It is not my lack of school spirit. It's my support for breast cancer survivors and people currently battling it. But why is this month important to you, and what knowledge should people know? I mean, what can we make people aware of this month?
Right. So I like to think of breast cancer as a sport out of all of the sports. And within the sports, you have subgroups. You have D1, you have your variations of college, you have high school, you get all the way down to the Y ball, right? And so it's kind of how breast cancer works. Like, it's so much more than just one diagnosis. I have a very specific subgroup diagnosis of triple negative breast cancer that affects younger women under 40, and then also, people of color are also more affected than people with my skin tone. And I think there is so much unawareness of something that affects so many people. And by so many people, I mean 1 in 8 women will be affected by breast cancer in their lifetime. That's regardless of genetic or family history.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I think that you talked about going for a scan in March. Was that a routine thing, or was that something that you listened to your body?
Yeah, so that was completely listening to my body. As women, we're pretty critical about what we see in our reflection back in the mirror. And right around February, I noticed my reflection is looking a little puffy. This is not me. This is not what I've worked so hard for, to grow my hair out, lose the steroid weight, to do all of those things that come with, treatment. And I called my doctor. I said, something is off. I can't tell you what it is, but something is off. And so I have a really good doctor team. And they pulled me in and they did a scan. And what they found is one of the tumor markers, the range is somewhere around 1 to 39 for this marker. And it was at 4,200. And so they did a scan. And what they found was my cancer had returned. And my neck, my clavicle, my spine, my lungs, my ribs, and a very large percentage of my pelvis. So when it returned, it was angry. It came back. It was ready. It was ticked off. And that was wild. But here's what's even more wild. I've now had 2 clear PET scans. The recent one in September is my doctors will never say it's not there.
Sure.
Because it's stage 4. Stage 4 is incurable. But there's nothing there to circle on the scans. There's nothing there to say, hey, this is something we should watch. There's just nothing there.
Right.
And it's only been 6 months. And I think that's even crazier than seeing a scan where it's returned and it's angry.
I'm just sitting here. I don't know what to say to you.
I don't either.
I really
don't.
I'm just sitting here. I'm thinking, that's incredible. Your fight just to do that. And I'm sure you were disappointed. I'm sure the emotions were just running crazy. And then, now you have your little girl, right?
I have a little girl.
Yeah, and you have your husband. And all this is just like, oh my God, here we go again. I'm just like, I'm sitting here managing. I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't deal with all that, And
so
it's crazy.
I have been really blessed to do some fun things. The first part of the summer, I took my daughter to New York. And I took her to Tiffany's, and I'm probably going to cry telling you this.
Tiffany's in New York?
I took her to Tiffany's.
Because you spent so much money? Or?
Probably, yeah. Yes. Thankfully, her high school graduation, her college graduation, her wedding, and her first baby gifts we picked out together.
Oh, wow.
And we have photos of us doing that.
Right.
And they are wrapped and they're in the safe at home.
You're going to make me cry. Oh, my God.
Because this is why October is so important, and awareness and research is so important, because statistically, even though I had a clear scan, statistically, I'm not going to be there for any of those.
Wow.
And that's the truth. Like, I had a clear scan, and maybe I get to have a clear scan for 70 more years, but statistically,
Right.
I don't. And so that is why it's so important that I don't know that I'm going to be able to send every mama to New York to go to Tiffany's for their baby, but hopefully, you know, through one of the pillars of the foundation, we can help fill in those gaps, because I know what it's looked like. I know what it feels like to look at your child and think, I'm your everything right now. Like, I'm your favorite person in the whole world. I know all your inside jokes. I know that you want to be Ferdinand the Bull for Halloween. Like, I know all of those things. But if I leave today, she's now 3.
Right.
Like, she's not going to remember any of that. And so what can I do to lessen my own heartache, but also to leave something that she knows without a doubt her mom loves her, period.
Right. That's a very cool thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard where people have left videos and different
Yeah.
messages and different things like that, but that takes a lot of foresight to plan all of that, right?
So much.
Because that in a person's life, that's the biggest events they'll ever go across, right?
Yeah.
Or that they'll ever experience. And so I'm praying for you right now,
Thank
you know,
you.
and so it's just, it's amazing. I didn't know how this interview was going to go, you know, with you. And I'm like, because somebody goes, well, actually, Haley asked me, she goes, because I get a little sensitive. I know I'm a big guy, but I get a little, I said, well.
You have daughters.
I,
You have a lot.
Yeah.
I do. And, you know, and we have 6 kids, and it's just, you know, you think about things, but when it's really happening to you or has happened, and praying that it doesn't happen to you again, it's real.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, you know, ever
Yeah.
have to experience that, thank God. But when you do, and I mean, you're a champ in my book.
Thank
I mean,
you.
you've done awesome, and you can tell your drive is incredible, and so you're a fighter, and you know,
I'm just an Oklahoma State Cowboy.
there you go. That's
Yeah.
right. That's exactly.
I'll tell
right.
you, one of the most heartbreaking things for me is just a human, not a mom, just for my own self, is when cancer gets in the way of me just having normal days.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing worse than that. So part of the season I'm in right now is the medicine that has given me 2 clear scans is also really giving my bone marrow a run for its money.
Right.
And I never even knew that I needed my bone marrow to function at a certain capacity until it stopped. And my hemoglobin has been tanking. So I go in weekly for blood work, and they say, no, you're good this week, or nope, you're getting a blood transfusion this week. And so between taking care of my family and doing regular things, I'm just sitting at the hospital getting blood. And a few weeks ago, I was asked to judge the first round of OSU Homecoming Royalty.
Okay.
And I had to email from the hospital in the infusion chair receiving a stranger's blood. Hey, so sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it today. I feel really bad. I know I'm supposed to be there in a couple hours. I am getting blood. And those days, not just because it's doing something cool like judging Homecoming Royalty,
Sure.
although super cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's
I'm
awesome.
bummed
you
about
bet.
it.
You bet.
That's what
Is
really
that like
stinks.
does that have is that something you'll have to do for the rest of your life? Or?
Until my bone marrow gets it together. So hopefully no,
Right.
but I mean, I will do it forever if I have to, but hopefully not.
Yeah, hope not either.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of mentioned it, but I think it's such an honor that you're part of the
Yeah.
Cowboy family. And I'm so
Thank
glad that
you.
we get to talk a little bit about, you know, the
Sure.
happy homecoming stuff coming up, but also the seriousness of it. And we were talking a little bit before the interview, and I lost my grandma to breast cancer when she was in her early 60s. And I
Yeah.
think what encourages me and trying to remain optimistic for you and for those other women out there fighting is that, like, technology has come so far and just
Yes.
continues to advance. So
Yes.
like the optimist of me wants to believe that there is going to be something that is a cure or a way to keep extending those years and make that lessen that statistical chance that it might not be as long as 70 years.
Right. So the medicine I'm taking today, it was still in trials like 5 to 8 years ago. So science
it's ever
is-
changing, then I guess.
It's ever
trying
changing.
to
It's
develop, right.
improving, and the subtype of cancer that I have, triple negative, means that it's not driven by any hormones. Which what that means is science hasn't caught up with it yet, because most science is for hormone-driven breast cancer, and so for the side of the fence I'm on, I need research to pull through. I need there to be more scientists and more people who are seeking cures for young moms.
So let me ask you this. So let's
Yeah.
talk about something
Hit me.
happy, right?
Yeah.
So will this be your daughter's first walk around this Friday?
Last year was
Oh,
her
she
first.
went.
She did.
And she'll remember
did.
more, hopefully, year after year, because that is
Yes.
so incredible.
Pistol Pete is her guy.
So she's not scared
No,
about
it is
Pistol Pete.
her guy.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
She has all of her orange clothes. She knows to wear them on Friday. We are oddly in this part of the state we are in right now is very crimson.
Right. So
And
the leaves are changing there then.
The leaves
It's
are.
a beautiful area because, you know, I grew up in
Yes.
Arkansas, right? And then we have a place in Coweta. And so all that area, that whole area where
Yeah.
you're from is just beautiful. You have the lake over there and all that.
Yes.
So it's really beautiful.
So she knows to wear orange on Friday. I have not taken her to a game yet. So hopefully
Okay.
this year is
Get there
going.
Saturday?
Hopefully this will be, first game for the
Right,
3-year-old. I think she'll lose her mind when she
Right,
sees
right.
Bullet.
Does she know horns down yet? Has she learned horns down? That's important for Saturday.
Yeah.
And she can all, so now have you ever met BB or seen BB? The mini bullet horse?
Little horse?
No.
So I think it's usually set up at Hall
Okay.
of Fame, right?
Perfect.
And it's set up on the corner. And I think if you get there a little
Okay.
bit early, that usually they've got BB, which just cracks me up. But anyway,
Yeah.
so they've got BB out, and
Here comes BB Bullet.
yeah, that's right. And so your daughter will be about the perfect size for her, I'm sure. I'm not even sure if BB's a boy or a girl, but anyway, it's a little pony.
Okay.
So, anyway.
I think what is so amazing about OSU homecoming, and you're an outsider,
I
really,
am.
is that it's so inclusive to all ages.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you gone to the parade?
I haven't. So last year I actually
What?
got sick. I got sick
Oh my
and I had
gosh.
COVID and I was in a 10-day quarantine over homecoming. And I was so excited because 2020 it was canceled and I was like my first homecoming. And then I spent it in my apartment.
Oh, no,
so it's
you
so sad.
must go. It is so
this year,
fun.
I'm like enjoying it all, soaking it all in.
it's so good.
It's like 80,000 maybe.
Yeah, it's wild.
100,000 people. But yeah, it's crazy. We have 3 boys we adopted from Ethiopia, 10 or 11, almost 11 years ago. And the first time we brought them up here, they were just, first of all, I'd never seen that many people together.
Yeah.
And you can't move. It's just like when you're walking down the
Yeah.
roads and all that stuff, and it's crazy. But it's just, it's such a cool event. And I'm glad she's going to get to be there. I'm sure her husband will be there with you. And
Yes.
so
He
it'll
is
just it'll be a fun
also an
time.
alumni.
Oh, he is.
So,
Awesome.
Yes.
Now, where is he from?
He is also from Perkins.
He's from Perkins. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
A lot of famous, great people are from Perkins, right? I'm learning more and more
Starts
every
with
day.
Frank Eaton.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pistol Pete.
That's the guy, right?
Yeah.
So, awesome.
Well, Brooke, we really thank you for taking the time to come
course.
hang out with us, talk to us, sharing your story. Appreciate your candidness. I know it's not easy to talk about, but it's really important for people to learn more about breast cancer and taking care of their health. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching this episode of the Inside OSU podcast. On behalf of First Cowboy Darren Shrum, I'm Meghan Robinson.
Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.